Hi everyone, welcome back. It is getting to the end of January and I have been doing an insane amount of reading already because I am stuck inside at home with nothing else to do because my new uni term hasn't started yet. So of course I turned to books. This isn't even all of the ones I read. But I read a lot of fiction actually, which is kind of semi-unusual for me at the moment. But in the holidays I do tend to like to sit down and get my teeth into some good fiction when I have time to escape. And I think that escapism is really nice when you're stuck in your third lockdown and you need to forget about the world. So I just thought I'd go through them and show you what I've been reading. I'm going to do it in size order just because that's the way they're pulled up. So first off we have Flush by Virginia Woolf. This is the first Virginia Woolf I'd ever read, but Flush is a biography of Elizabeth Barrett Browning's dog. And it's really cute and kind of heartwarming though, and a really nice pondering on life and companionship. And it's a nice contrast to the other little black classic which I had, which was Matilda by Mary Shelley, which is not Matilda by Roald Dahl, is very much not that. It's about a girl whose father is weirdly in love with her in a sexual way, and it's very disturbing and very Mary Shelley. I don't know what those guys had going on, but they wrote some interesting books. So these were both really good, but very, very different to each other, so nice companions. Next, I read Winter in Socho, which is a translated piece of fiction, and I've actually read quite a few translated pieces of fiction just by chance in this list. So this one is translated from French, and it's about a small town in North Korea. This French graphic novelist comes to visit. It's about this woman who works in a hostel where he's staying, about their relationship and about kind of what it means for him to come and draw this place that he doesn't belong to. It's got a very strange ending, and I think a lot of the French translated fiction that I read has this sort of similar very short format, kind of starts more recognisably and tails off massively, which I really enjoy, and it's something really specific to the sort of French fiction I've read. I don't know if it's how they do it, I don't know, but it's interesting to note. And the other French translated fiction that I read was all about Sarah, which I read, I borrowed from my library online, so I don't have it, but that was about this really intense love affair between these two women in Paris that becomes quite destructive, and it was really good. I liked the first half of it more than I liked the second half of it, but these short reads are so gripping, you just snaffle them up, which is why I've read so many. Then I read Grief is a Thing with Feathers by Max Porter. This is a poetry book, so it's not a collection of poetry, it's an actual book written in poetry. It's about a husband and his two sons. The wife suddenly dies and it's about them having to cope with that, with this crow that appears in their life to help them deal with it. I definitely did not get all of the literary stuff that was going on here because I think it references like T.S. Eliot poems and things, and I'm not that good. I'm not that good at the poetry stuff, but I still really, really enjoyed it, and I could still tell it had that depth and complexity that could be explored. And I know there's been a stage play of this, so I don't know if it's available anywhere to watch, but I think that would also be so cool. It's really unique. I haven't really read anything like it before, but I very, very much enjoyed it, and I think it's one I'll probably come back to if I ever have to deal with grief like this, because I think it would reveal more to me then. I think it's a book that with age will grow on me. Then I read Carol by Patricia Highsmith. This is another lovely lesbian book. This is one I have to read for my uni course, and it's really cool. It was written in like the 1952s. Yeah, 1952s. It was written in 1952 and published under a pseudonym because Patricia Highsmith was quite a well-known crime and thriller writer at the time, and write a lesbian piece of fiction? No way. So it was republished later, but it's a really, really good book, and it's kind of amazing because it almost has a good ending. They don't die, which is quite rare for gay fiction published that early on. It's been made into a film, as you can see, and it's really intense. It's kind of still got that thriller vibe, it's still got that intense passion kind of from All About Sarah, and it's got that sort of thriller edge, which makes it a really gripping read, and I love the 1950s fashion vibe at the moment, so I really enjoyed immersing myself in that in my imagination. On to by far the worst book I read, It's called The Best Book in the World. It's by Peter Stjernström, and I have kept this on my shelf for so long, and I don't really know why. It's translated from Swedish, which is probably why. But I'm trying to get through a few of these books that have been sat on my shelf for so long, and I've never thrown them out, but I've never read them. And I'm trying to read them so I can either throw them out, like this one, or keep them because they're good. This is about two people who have the idea to write the best book in the world, combining loads of genres at the same time. And it sort of follows one of the writers attempting to do this, but it has a crazy plot twist. The women are awfully written, the plot doesn't make sense, it's so forced. I mean, why would you write a book about the best book in the world? It's not like you're setting your expectations way too high. I thought it was quite problematic in places. Like, I don't know if it was the translation or the actual writing, but I didn't really like the stuff it did to do with, like, it talks about Tourette's in a really weird way, and I really, really did not enjoy this. But I was kind of too far through it to stop, and I wanted to just have it done so that I could be like, nope, never again. The ending didn't save you. The ending tried to do something to save it, it didn't. So we're happily waving goodbye to this one to say never again. Onto Broken Homes, which was very different, thankfully. It's Ben Aaronovitch. I've never quite known how to say the name. It's part of the Rivers of London series, which is a crime fantasy series where it's about police solving crimes, but the Rivers of London are sort of spirits and gods, and they're a magical crime unit. And they are great, great books, especially if you know London and you really like reading about streets. It will describe streets and I'll be like, oh, I know what that street is, which I really enjoy. I hadn't read this book so far because I was trying to find the books to fill in the ones in between, because I think I've read the first one and this is like the fourth or fifth. It was fine to read it on its own. I didn't fill in the ones in between, but there's definitely plot that comes before and plot that comes after. So at some point I'm sure I'll get around to them, but at the moment I was just like, it's not a priority, I just want to read it. And I read it and enjoyed it, so that's what matters. Onto On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, which has the most gorgeous cover. It's by Vuong, and Vuong was originally a poet. They're Vietnamese American, I believe, and this is a boy writing to his mother, kind of talking a lot about his childhood and growing up with his mother and what it means to be an immigrant, and it's just beautiful. A lot of it's about what it means to be gay and queer and relationships between his nationalities and his sexuality, and I really love this one. Yeah, I don't think more needs to be said about it than that. And then finally, the last book I have in person is Nimona, which was a reread. Nimona is a graphic novel by Noelle Stevenson, and it has got like such cute illustrations. It's about a evil villain and his arch nemesis, Nimona, who is a sort of mysterious girl who appears who can shapeshift and becomes the villain's sidekick, and about the tales that ensue, but it's very much not a normal superhero tale. It's very, very different to that. It's very, very cute, it's quite gay, and it is kind of all about chosen family, I guess, and that is beautiful. That is what we love. I've read this like so many times. I really, really love it. It's one of my favourite graphic novels. And then finally, the last book I read was Normal People by Sally Roony. I also read this getting it from my library online, so I don't have it, but I loved it. I thought the talk about class was so fascinating. Really liked the way it played with it, and I thought it really authentically depicted sort of relationships in your early 20s between friends and between the people you know and from school and travelling between them. I really want to watch the TV series now, because I hadn't been watching it because I hadn't read the book, but I'm so glad I'll be able to do that. I think that it could do with rereading it in a way to be able to make a really proper analysis of it, because I think I sped through it because I was so interested in the story, and like the love narrative is so gripping that you just want to rush through it, but I think there's a lot more depth to it than that, and I think there's a lot more subtlety to that, which can probably be missed on first reading. So again, it's one that I would consider rereading at some point in my life to really fully be able to talk about it in a like intellectual informed way, I guess. But sometimes you don't read books to talk about them in an intellectual informed way. Sometimes you read books because you're really into the story and you're really into the world. And that is probably even more valid. That's what books are for. I'm currently reading Norse Gods by Neil Gaiman, because that's another one on my shelf. And there are a few others I might try and pick up before it gets to term time. But yeah, I'm flying through the books at the moment and I'm loving it. I'm also desperate to get my hands on a copy of The Queen's Gambit because I finished watching the TV series last night, and so that is another book that I'm sure I will be reading in the very near future. I hope you enjoyed having this peek into the reading that I've been doing. It's a bit self-indulgent for me, but that's fine. I don't mind. And if you want to keep up with what I'm reading, I do have an Instagram where I try and post what book I'm reading at that current time. That's it for this week. I will see you all next week. I hope you have wonderful weeks and you stay safe, and I'll see you soon.